And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim Manager at WEIU. My guest today is our Mattoon Mayor, Mr. Tim Gover.
Hello, Jeff.
And we were hoping.
With you.
Good. Thanks for coming over. You were going to bring Kyle, but Kyle had city business to attend to, so you had to solo it today.
I'm going to wing it.
There you go. Well, let's just give an overview about how you think things are going in Mattoon, and then we'll get into some details and talk about the good, the bad, and whatever the ugly if we have to.
Oh, we don't want to talk anything but the good.
There you go. Yes.
No, things are going really good in Mattoon. A lot of momentum going, a lot of new businesses starting, and businesses expanding. So, and I have my cheat sheet here.
You're always prepared. You never have to worry about you not being prepared.
Well, I try to be. It goes back to the time when I was teaching here at Eastern.
There you go. Well, let's talk about some business. I mean, obviously this past weekend, Marshall's opened up.
Right.
And then I know Luigi's reopened. The Honeybee opened. The Shoe Connection announced they were coming to town, which I believe is in the spring, right?
I think so.
That's 4 pieces of good news all in 1 week.
Right.
And just lucky enough we have you here today. So.
And you stole my thunder.
We go talk about those and what that means to Mattoon.
Well, I was at the grand opening yesterday morning at Marshall's, and a huge number of people attended that. I would say probably several hundred. In fact, they were lined up from Marshall's entrance back to Joann Fabric. And in fact, they ran out of carts,
really?
Shopping carts. So that's the good news. And I heard that today there were to be 5 semi trucks there to restock.
Holy cow!
The materials and the merchandise there at Marshall's. And also, of course, as you mentioned, Luigi's reopened as well this past weekend, and that had been closed for several months as a result of the fire there at Shores. And speaking of Luigi's and Shores, the plan is, as I understand it, there at that vacant lot where Shores Jewelry Store was, they're going, Keith Summers is going to make that into sort of an outdoor eating for Luigi's.
Oh, really?
And, a nice little area there. So that'll probably come about in the spring.
That is great news.
And then Shores is building a new building at 14th and Broadway, and there will be 5 locations there for businesses, and as I understand it, 4 of the 5 have been rented.
Holy cow, that's really good news.
Shores and 3 others will be going in there, and they're working on that now. In fact, as I passed there coming over here this morning, they're working there.
Okay.
And so we've got, and as you say, the Honeybee has opened as well. Other things probably coming to the mall as we move, I guess, eastward a little bit. There in the Kohl's Center area, east of the interstate and west of the Lerner Road. Of course, the HSHS Medical Clinic is already under construction.
Yep.
They're getting ready before long. They're already moving some dirt there for the Hilton Garden Inn and Conference Center. And then, of course, there will be the Blue Cross Blue Shield building, and that's going to be a 2-story building, probably employing about 250 people.
And when will they break ground on the convention center and everything? Do we know yet?
I'm not quite sure. I think they're waiting until after the first of the year, primarily because of the enterprise zone, which Mattoon and Coles County was lucky enough to get. There will be some incentives for them to wait until after January 1st.
Talk about what you think it means to have a company like Rural King based in Mattoon and what they've done with the mall expansion.
Oh, I am so pleased that Rural King bought the mall, because without that, what would we have done with the mall? Because it was going downhill, as virtually all malls throughout the United States are falling out of favor with people. And so Rural King has purchased that. They've got Marshall's there. McWhorter has just recently announced they're putting in the McWhorter pub.
And they're going to open the day after Thanksgiving, I heard.
Yeah, and they already have the sign up on the outside of the building, and they have renovated that, and it's going to be a little different than it had been, more what I would call family friendly. And I understand they have built a wall between where the bar is and where the eating is, and they've done some other things.
Oh, okay.
I've not been in there yet, but doing a lot of good things.
The other thing that Mattoon has really done well, a couple of different things, but I want to talk a little bit about, it seems like we have a lot more downtown centered around the Midtown area, around the train depot and the park there by Consolidated. Just the amount of events, but not just the events. Anybody can put on an event, but you have to have people come down and take part and enjoy them. Talk about some of the downtown events that Mattoon has done in 2019, and I'm assuming this will continue for 2020.
Right. Of course, we've have the annual Christmas parade, the Veterans Parade. That day was a horrible day weather-wise, as you may remember.
Last two parades a bit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And on November the 11th, Veterans Day, they dedicated the flagpole there at the public library. And that's a replica of the one that is actually in the library. And that was the original flagpole when General Grant, U.S. Grant, took command of his troops in Mattoon as a captain in the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
So that has been preserved, and the Exchange Club in Mattoon has done a lot with that as well.
When when you think about downtown, I know they had the trunk or treat. They've had the Christmas celebrations this weekend, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
that trunk or treat, I have never in my life seen so many people downtown, and they closed off from about 15th Street to the depot, and it was absolutely packed with people.
That
was wonderful.
The Shoe Connections one we didn't talk about yet is also is that the name of the right? Is that the correct name?
I think so.
Yeah, and they're coming scheduled to open in March. Already trying to get people pre-hired now. Is it
sometime in the spring.
So, and do we know how many people they'll employ yet?
No, I don't.
Okay, and will they be in the mall? I was a little vague on the information. I didn't hear everything.
I'm not really sure either.
Okay, we'll leave that one alone then for now. Okay. Other thing, Lightworks is going on. Lightworks had the walkthrough last week, and now it's open, and that brings a lot of people into Mattoon. Hopefully they shop, dine, and get gas here as well.
Right. As I understand it, when they had the walkthrough, there were over 800. That's the last figure I saw. And
that's pretty good.
Huge number.
Yeah.
And of course, they have buses even of people that go through there from other cities. And Kurt Stretch and his crew do a tremendous job there at the park, and they keep adding displays.
Yeah. That's the neat thing. It's not the same every year, and so you can look for the new stuff and new sponsors and new things that Kurt and the crew put up. Other things that have happened, it's announced that Mattoon will get a new dog park, correct?
We're working on that.
Getting a new dog park over
and
by
the school. And that will probably be sometime in the spring.
Okay.
We've been working on that for a couple of years. That'll be located down south of 12th Street.
Behind the grade school, correct?
Sort of behind Williams School, elementary school.
I know Charleston added a dog park a couple years ago, and it's been really successful, and so I think Mattoon's will be well. And I know even people from Mattoon come over here, so that'll alleviate some of that problem here with too many dogs in the park at the same time.
And even I know some of the people from Mattoon even go up to Champaign and Urbana where they have a dog park.
There you go. So the other thing, I guess, we talk about Kurt Stretch. He's building the second field over at Lawson Park for baseball tournaments, and that thing's coming along pretty well.
It is.
And hopefully they'll have that ready for, I guess, play next summer, correct?
Should be.
That's the idea?
Yes.
Okay. Mattoon in Motion has also been getting a lot of attention with some of the things that they're doing, and I know with the Google Award and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's something that we had the annual meeting here a couple of weeks ago, and very well attended, and they had booths set up where some of the different groups there, like the housing group, had information for the public, and a lot of people involved in that, which is great. And the volunteerism is fantastic in Mattoon, and that's what really makes a city.
Oh, yeah.
The city can't do it on its own, the municipal government.
Okay. I know you always bring prepared, so I don't want to keep going through my list. What are some stuff on your list that you want to talk about today? We're talking with Mattoon Mayor Tim Gover today.
Okay, as I look here, I call it my cheat sheet. some of the things because I don't want to try to miss anything. My understanding is that probably there will be some other businesses that may come into the area where the Hilton Garden Inn is going and Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Anything you want to break? Any hints out there?
No, and frankly, I don't know either. I've just been told.
I've only heard Dunkin' Donuts. That name's been going around for a while, but I don't know where we stand on that.
Well, I've been hearing that for 5 years or more, and I tell people now, I will believe it when I see it.
There you go.
So I don't know. Kyle has been in contact with some of the people involved in that, but we don't know yet. Hopefully that will come about. CNC Kettle Corn is moving into the mall, or is in the mall.
Yep.
They moved down here from Tuscola, so that's a new business. Excuse me. The Crazy Bull Mexican Grill and Cantina is expected to open sometime in the spring at 61 DeWitt, which most people would remember as the old D&W restaurant.
Okay.
And there's a child care center there,
now,
daycare
right?
center, and that's going to move to the old Jehovah Witness Church at 33rd and Moultrie.
Okay.
Todd Fuller bought that property and has remodeled it, expanded it so that it would probably accommodate at least 100 children in daycare. So that probably, the last word I heard on that, would open sometime probably in January.
Okay. So you said Crazy Bowl Mexican Restaurant?
Crazy Bull Mexican Restaurant and Grill. That's a mouthful.
There it is, yeah.
Other things going on, I might mention the old Public Works building that was at 12th and Richmond has been demolished.
It is gone now all the way?
It's gone. And the walking trail or bike trail, whatever you want to call it, will be going through that area where that building was. And we're hoping to get something done with moving the bike trail from where it ends at 10th Street to the Y.
Okay, that'd be neat.
And eventually we would like to expand that to 34th Street and then far into the future maybe expand that out to Lake Paradise.
That'd be neat. And I know one of the things that Charleston's been doing that well, and I think with Coles County becoming almost like a bike and hike destination, I think we'll see that in the future. Don't you agree?
I agree. And in fact, I've talked with the Amtrak people about maybe having something that they could bring. People would bring their bikes down here on the train, which some of them do now.
Yeah.
But they could go from Mattoon all the way over to Fox Ridge.
Yeah, Fox Ridge,
and
even Lake Charleston on that side. Yeah,
they would be staying in this area maybe for a long weekend, and some things like that I think could develop here in the future as well.
Also heard a couple of things, maybe some Lake Mattoon at the campground, or the what used to be the beach campground area. They're doing some work out there to.
Right, they're building. I don't know what you would call it exactly, but through the Rotary Club of Mattoon, they're building some additions out there.
Okay, is that what it is? All right. I know there were some things going on. I didn't know all the details. When you think of Mattoon, and is there anything that you would I always say the wish list, but is there areas of concern or areas for 2020 you'd like to see worked on?
Well, one of the things that we will be working on is the extension of Marshall Avenue. Right now, it's been reconfigured or reconstructed from 6th Street to 14th Street.
14th.
And next year in 2020, it's hard to believe it's 2020.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? We were just talking off mic about how it was 2000, Y2K, and now it's 2020.
Right. But that will be expanded from 14th Street to 17th Street next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have anybody at the middle school anymore, so I don't have to mess with that.
Yeah.
I'm getting old, is what that means. What else is going on? Where are we at in the election cycle? We're talking to Mattoon Mayor Tim Gover. I always like to catch people up about when the next election. I know there's the fall election next November. Does that coincide with any Mattoon elections?
No, the municipal election will be in 2021.
2021? All right. And that will be, is that for mayor that year? Or?
Well, it'll be the entire council.
Council's out. Okay.
And of course, our form of government is different than Charleston's form of government, so we have commissioners, 4 commissioners and the mayor, and all 5 of us are in charge of a department or more than one department. Like I'm the police commissioner, and we have a fire commissioner and public works commissioner and so on.
We going to run for mayor again?
Planning to.
There you go.
Yeah. See, you heard it here
we
first.
got some breaking news.
Well,
Yeah. We get something out of you as we talk about. I have a couple of questions I have to ask. Because when people told me that you were coming on, and I don't, and again, you said not to talk about the bad, but you can work this bad or you can just work this. I have to ask you kind of stuff.
Sure.
Gas prices in Coles County seem to be higher than all of our neighboring counties. As a mayor of Mattoon, your thoughts? I know you can't control it, but does it frustrate you when you hear people talking like that?
It does, and there are some people that I say they're againers. That they're against everything, and they look at the worst, and I try to look at the best. And of course, we have no control. We, the city, have no control over gas prices. But you're right. I was in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed in Marshall, Illinois, the gas price was $2.33, whereas in Mattoon it's $2.57, $2.59. Depends upon the day and the time of the day, I suppose. But I wish the prices would be a little less. But
the other thing is a lot of these but gambling venues have opened up in Mattoon. It seems like a lot of them compared to maybe as they're brand new. Mm-hmm. Is there been? I know I'm pro business, so don't get me wrong when I say this. But so I ask this is. There really people are saying, well, there's too many of them, but they're not really causing a problem, right? There's been no issues with all of them, and so they're just other businesses.
That's right. Not really a major problem with any of them. Some of those businesses have a restaurant license, which means that they're supposed to sell, according to our ordinance, 51% of revenue would be food and beverage. And we are looking at that right now, and there are 3 of those establishments that do not meet that requirement. So they will eventually have to change.
Does that mean they have to they need to push their food more, or will they have to change their business model?
Well,
or both.
They'll lose their liquor license, and then I would assume they would lose their liquor license, and then that would mean if they want to go back into the business, they're going to have to make sure they have 51%, according to our ordinance.
All right. When you think about 2020, what about on the business side, budget side, some of the public works projects? Do you have any? Do you kind of know what the game plan is for there?
Yeah, we are working, as I mentioned, on reconstructing of Marshall Avenue. We're also working on the plans for expansion of the bike trail or the walk trail, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that will probably develop next year as well, 2020.
I know you put the 2020 budget online already for people to review. If you want to go to the cityofmattoon.gov's website to check that out. I know Kyle's not here, so I got to put you on the spot with a little budgeting. But how do we look for as we head into 2020 city-wise in Mattoon?
Well, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have a deficit again, and I do not want deficits, but we have no choice. And part of it is state mandates. We're having to put more money into the police and fire pension funds. And speaking of that, here recently, the legislature approved and the governor signed a bill to consolidate over 600 downstate fire and police pension funds. I don't know what's going to happen with that. We're going to have to put more money into the pension fund. We have been diverting some of our revenue from the gaming into the police and fire pension funds. But we were hoping that in that bill to consolidate those pension funds that we would be exempt from PTEL, so that if we had to, we could raise taxes to put money. And I don't like to raise taxes, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But to raise taxes, possibly to put money into that police and fire pension funds. So that's one of the things. But that was not included in that original bill. I'm told that they will be looking at that in the spring session of the legislature. But you and I know, Jeff, if it's not in that original bill, it's probably not going to be in anything in it.
And when does that new when does that new law take effect?
I think it's January 1st.
January 1st. Is there any other laws that take effect in January you know of that kind of? I know that there's a big one about having your cell phone even in your hand in the state of Illinois.
Well, one, of course, that impacts Coles County and Mattoon and Charleston would be the new enterprise zone. And that will give incentives not only to manufacturing and industry, but to retail and other types of businesses. So it's been expanded, and we were very fortunate. Coles together, Angela Griffin and others put together a huge amount of material to send into the state, so that luckily we were one of the, I think, 20 in the state of Illinois that were accepted
that's good
and
news.
granted that enterprise zone.
Let's go back to the fire and police a little bit. The fire, are you doing a search now for a new fire captain or fire chief, because the previous interim chief resigned? So
Yes.
where we are in that process?
Now, Chris Phipps was the interim chief. He'd retired chief from Charleston,
Yep.
and he did a fantastic job while I was there, doing a number of different things and upgrading the department and plans and things in the department. But right now we're in the process of looking for at least an interim chief, if not a permanent chief.
Now, what are the rules on that? Can you hire within, or do you need to go out, or does it matter?
We could do either.
Do either. Okay. Other job opportunities for City of Mattoon right now? Anything that you're looking for?
Well, you mean in city government?
Any city government, yeah. In any of them.
Yeah, nothing really in the city government, but there are a number of businesses that are expanding. Hershey Meister business, which is located up in the very north part of 6th Street, across the street from Mars Pet Food.
Yeah.
They're planning a 25,000 square foot addition.
Oh, really?
And probably after the first of the year, because again, the enterprise zone will give them some
benefits
incentives.
Okay.
And they will be adding employees. And in fact, speaking of Mars, they celebrated their 40th anniversary in Mattoon, and they've done some substantial expansion. And also, speaking of expansion, NCI, which is located on 316.
The old movie theater for us old folks in
exactly,
Mattoon, right?
that area.
Yeah.
And they're planning or have done a $1 million expansion as well.
And that's good, because we were close to losing them, right?
Oh, yeah, they were
years
closed
ago.
for a while,
Yeah.
and then they sort of came back from the dead almost.
Oh, yeah, so as
And
well.
We were delighted with that.
Any other things that are happening in Mattoon? You got your list over there. I keep talking. I want to make sure I get your list.
I'm jumping around here just a little bit. You mentioned Honeybee has opened along with Luigi's,
Yeah.
and so that is all good. We are working now on purchasing of the old cab stand there at 19th and 19th and Charleston and Broadway. We actually own the land. The city owns the land.
Yeah.
But private enterprise owns the building itself. So we're working to buy that building. We'll demolish it and expand that little Wolf Pocket Park.
Yeah.
Say that real fast. But expand that. So then a grassy area.
Okay.
The streetscaping, speaking of that area, between 19th Street and the depot, will be completed shortly, and I think in the spring they will be putting up new lighting, which will be similar to the lighting in the parking lot behind Villa and De Beers, that area, as well as Progress Square and the area there by the depot, the parking lot.
Okay. Another business opened up, speaking of that, is Lifetime Eye Care over across from Casey Summers
Yes.
out there.
And that opened up just a few months ago. In fact, that's really an expansion. Mark Essery,
Yeah.
Dr. Mark Essery's business here in Charleston.
There you go. And the Haven is, did I see that Marshall's donated $10,000
They did.
to the Haven, which is the
Homeless shelter.
yeah, homeless shelter. I was having a brain lock
Yeah.
there. Homeless shelter in Mattoon. So that's got to be a great windfall for them, and to kind of continue what they've been doing for Mattoon.
It is, and they're now open 24/7. There for a number of years, when they first started, they required people to leave
During the day,
like
right?
at 7:30 in the morning, and they couldn't come back in until 5 o'clock at night. But they're open 24/7 now and doing some other things that they were not doing previously.
All right, we have a few minutes left with Mattoon Mayor Tim Gover before we get to some maybe unrelated questions. Anything else that you want to talk about for the city of Mattoon as we kind of wrap up the 2019 and head to 2020, which is still amazing for us to say.
Well, you've heard me say this before on the program, that we're truly blessed because we have so much going for us. And you mentioned downtown Mattoon, midtown Mattoon, Keith Summers, and others have done so much to develop that area, redevelop that area. I can remember the time, as you can, when you could have shot a cannon
Yeah.
down Broadway, and who would have known? And now in many cases, you're looking for a parking space, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, it really looks good. And once they get the sidewalk done on some of that, where it's
Right.
getting worked on there in front of like Dr. Helms' area, it'll even make that area look better. And so, yeah, downtown Mattoon is totally different than when I worked there at in Cromwell Radio in our first location.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing the difference.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right, let's talk about. Well, first of all, I know you. I always ask you this. My favorite question to ask you. We're talking to Mattoon Mayor Tim Gover, and one of the things he likes to do is ride along with our police officers during the night, during the weekend, during the day. You got any good stories or stuff that you want to talk about? I think this is neat that you still do this.
Well, more of the same, I guess. I've been riding with the police since I became mayor 9 years ago, and I try to get out once a month and ride along, see what's going on, get better acquainted with the officers and what some of the problems may be that they're faced with in just their daily work.
Does it make them nervous that they have the mayor with them, or do they?
No,
do they like
they tell me they like for me to ride along, and when I finish riding, they'll say, "When are you coming back?"
Hey, that's a good sign, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
There you go. All right. Let's talk about 8 unrelated questions as we head into Thanksgiving, kind of a Thanksgiving holiday tinge to these questions. The food for Thanksgiving that you look forward to the most. What is that one thing?
Oh, I could say dessert, but probably the turkey, sort of a traditional type thing.
I think turkey and dessert are the top two.
Yeah,
if you want
yeah.
to rank them.
Right.
After that, all the other stuff.
And some liquid refreshment.
Of course, yes. Maybe one or two. Now, speaking of that, do you have a favorite pie for Thanksgiving that you like? Are you a pumpkin pie traditionalist?
I like pumpkin pie, but I also like pecan and apple pie. So any of those three, or better yet, all three of them.
I like the way you're thinking, my friend. Is there a perk of your job that you like? And I don't mean anything that you get for free, but just something you get to do or when you're around town or anything?
Well, one of the things I wanted to do when I became mayor, about the first day, I said I want 2 things accomplished. Number 1, clean up Young Radiator. We accomplished that. And I say we. Also, clean up the town. And the police have been doing a fantastic job of nuisance. And I drive around town on Saturday or Sunday with my little notebook and writing down addresses. And Monday morning, I will call the police department and say, do you have this address? Do you have that address? Just trying to clean the city up.
Is there have you started your Christmas shopping yet? We're 25 days away from Christmas.
I have found the easiest thing to do is to write a check. One size fits all. It's never returned, and so that works for me.
It's Owens with an S, then.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Were you a hunter growing up? I see there's just so many pictures of all the deer that are being harvested right now.
No.
I was never a hunter either. I just said no.
Never a hunter, never a fisherman.
Now, this is the odd question of the day.
Uh-oh.
When you went to school as a youngster, you took a lunchbox. Do you remember, did you have a show or a theme to your lunchbox? Or was it just a regular old lunchbox? I was trying to think of mine the other day, and I think mine was an NFL one.
Well, we used to have meals that were cooked there, so I didn't really take a lunchbox.
A lunchbox, all right.
But that's been so long ago, Jeff, I can't remember it anyway.
I was not going to say that. Well, thank you so much for coming in, Mayor Gover. It's always great to have you and catch up.
Thank you, and a happy Thanksgiving to all.
Happy holidays, everyone. This is WEIU.